Somebody is going to make your life difficult today. Maybe it's already happened. A coworker who talks over you in every meeting. A family member who only calls when they need something. A friend who somehow makes every conversation about themselves. Even when you're the one going through something hard. And here's what everyone tells you to do about it. Cut them off, go no contact, protect your peace. Set a boundary and walk away. And sometimes that's genuinely the right move. I'm not going to sit here and tell you every toxic relationship should be preserved. Some people need to be out of your life completely. And no amount of philosophy changes that. But most of the difficult people in your life aren't in that category. They're your boss, your sister, your roommate. People you can't just delete. People you're going to see again tomorrow. And the day after that, whether you like it or not. So what do you do with someone you can't cut off but who keeps getting under your skin? Almost 2,000 years ago, a Roman emperor sat down every night and wrote himself private notes, not for an audience, not for followers, just for himself, about exactly this problem. His name was Marcus Aurelius, and he ran the most powerful empire on earth while being surrounded every single day by people who lied to him, flattered him, undermined him, and tried to use him. And he figured something out that most self-help content completely misses. He didn't figure out how to make people less annoying. He figured out how to stop letting them control the one thing they were never supposed to touch: his mind. That's what this video is actually about. Not how to deal with toxic people in the surface level way you've heard 100 times. The actual Stoic mechanism underneath it. The thing that changes how a difficult person's behavior lands on you in the first place. Let's get into it. Before I give you the Stoic approach, I want to explain why the standard advice, just ignore them, don't let them get to you, or rise above it, usually fails. Because if you've tried that advice and it hasn't worked, it's not because you're weak. It's because the advice is incomplete. Don't let them get to you assumes you have a switch you can just flip. You don't. Telling yourself not to feel annoyed the moment someone insults you is like telling yourself not to flinch when someone throws a ball at your face. The reaction happens before you've decided anything. Rise above it sounds nice, but it doesn't tell you how. It's a result, not a method. It's like telling someone who can't swim to just float. Great advice, zero instruction. Kill them with kindness works sometimes, but it's a strategy for controlling the other person's reaction to you. And here's the problem with that: you don't control their reaction. You never did. If your peace depends on them responding well to your kindness, you've just handed them the controls again. Dressed up as a nicer strategy. This is exactly the gap the Stoics identified. Not how do I get the other person to stop? Not how do I manage my face so I look calm? But something much deeper. How do I stop assigning my peace of mind to something I was never in charge of in the first place? That's the real Stoic rule. And once you see it, you can't unsee it. Here's the foundation everything else in this video is built on. It comes from Epictetus, a Stoic philosopher who, and this matters, was born into slavery. He wasn't theorizing about hardship from a position of comfort. He lived through actual powerlessness, and out of that came one of the most useful ideas in the history of philosophy. Epictetus said everything in life falls into one of two categories: things that are up to us and things that are not up to us. What's up to us? Our judgments, our reactions, our choices, our effort. What we decide something means. What's not up to us? Other people's opinions, other people's actions, other people's moods. The weather, traffic, what your coworker said about you behind your back. Whether your sister apologizes. Whether your boss ever recognizes your work. Now here's where it gets uncomfortable, in a good way. Most of your daily suffering doesn't come from bad things happening. It comes from you assigning your peace of mind to something in the not up to us category. Think about the last time someone truly ruined your day. Really sit with it for a second. Was it the event itself? Or was it the story you built on top of the event? The replaying, the imagining what you should have said back, the checking if they've read your message, the wondering what they meant by that tone. The event was 5 seconds. The suffering was 5 hours. And the 5 hours came entirely from you. From your mind treating something that was never yours to control, as if it were the whole game. Marcus Aurelius wrote something that captures this perfectly. He said that if you're distressed by anything external, the pain isn't due to the thing itself but to your estimate of it, and that you have the power to revoke that estimate at any moment. Read that again. You have the power to revoke it. Not to change the person, not to fix the situation, to revoke your own judgment about it. This is not the same as don't care. This is not numbness and it's not suppression. It's precision. It's putting your energy exactly where it can actually do something, and refusing to spend it where it can't. So when someone is toxic to you, when they insult you, ignore you, manipulate you, disrespect you, the Stoic question isn't, how do I stop them? The Stoic question is this thing right now something that is up to me? Their behavior? Not up to you. Your judgment about their behavior? Entirely up to you. That distinction is the whole game. There's a metaphor the Stoics use that I think makes this click instantly, so let me walk you through it. Imagine an archer. A good archer does everything within their control perfectly. They pick a strong bow. They choose their best arrow. They study the wind. They plant their feet. They breathe steady. They aim with total precision. Every single thing that is theirs to control, they control excellently. Then they release the arrow, and in that half second after release, a gust of wind comes out of nowhere and pushes the arrow off course. Did the archer fail? Here's the Stoic answer. No. The archer succeeded completely because everything within their control, they executed perfectly. The wind was never theirs to control. Once the arrow left the bow, the outcome belonged to forces outside the archer entirely. Now apply that to a toxic person in your life. You can control how you show up. You can control whether you're honest, whether you set a clear boundary, whether you stay calm, whether you say what needs to be said with respect. That's your bow, your arrow, your aim. Their reaction, whether they respect the boundary, whether they apologize, whether they change, whether they attack you back. That's the wind. It was never yours to control. It never will be. This is why so many people stay stuck in painful dynamics with difficult people. They keep judging their own success by the wind. I set the boundary, but they didn't respect it, so I failed. No, you didn't fail. You did the part that was yours. Their response was never the metric. Once you genuinely absorb this, something shifts. You stop needing the toxic person to react correctly in order for you to feel okay. Your peace stops being a hostage to their behavior. You did your part. The arrow is in the air. What happens next was never the part you were graded on. I want to pause here because I know exactly what objection is forming in your head right now. So I'm just supposed to accept being treated badly? Just let it happen and tell myself it doesn't matter? No, and this is the single most misunderstood part of Stoicism. So let's get it right. The Stoics were not passive people. Marcus Aurelius ran a war-torn empire for nearly 2 decades. Epictetus taught for years and built an entire school. Seneca advised the most powerful man in Rome and had to navigate real, actual danger from people who wanted him dead. These were not people sitting quietly accepting whatever came at them. Stoicism doesn't say don't act, it says act on what's yours and don't waste yourself trying to control what isn't. So concretely, here's what this looks like with a toxic person. You absolutely can and should set a boundary. You can absolutely tell someone their behavior is not acceptable. You can walk away from a conversation, block a number, say no, protect your time, protect your space. All of that is squarely inside what's up to you, so do it. And do it clearly and without apology. What you let go of is not the action, it's the outcome. You set the boundary because it's the right thing for you to do, not because you're guaranteed they'll respect it. You speak your truth because it reflects who you are, not because you're guaranteed an apology in return. And you protect your space because that's your responsibility to yourself, regardless of whether the other person ever acknowledges it. This is the difference between reacting and responding. Reacting is when their behavior directly drives your next move. They insult you, you insult back. They escalate, you escalate, and now you're both just puppets pulling each other's strings. Responding is when you decide your next move based on your own values, independent of what they just did. A toxic person wants a reaction, because reactions are proof that they still have power over you. A calm, deliberate response, even a firm one, even one that includes real consequences like walking away, takes that power back because it's coming from you, not from them. I want to bring you inside one of the most famous passages Marcus Aurelius ever wrote because it's directly about this exact situation, dealing with difficult people you can't avoid. Every morning before he even got out of bed, Marcus would remind himself that he was going to encounter difficult people that day, and he told himself he would meet the meddling, the ungrateful, the arrogant, the deceitful, the envious, and the unsociable. Now notice what he's doing here. He's not hoping it won't happen. He's not surprised when it does. He's preloading the expectation so that when it actually happens, it doesn't destabilize him. Think about why this works psychologically. Most of our frustration with difficult people comes from a hidden assumption that they shouldn't be this way, that their behavior is some kind of violation of how things are supposed to go. But when you expect it in advance, the same behavior doesn't hit you as a shock. It hits you as confirmation of something you already accounted for. It's the difference between being blindsided by rain with no umbrella and walking outside, already holding one because you checked the forecast. Same rain, completely different experience. But Marcus doesn't stop at just expecting difficult people. He goes further. And this is the part people usually skip. He reminds himself why they act that way. Not to excuse it, but to understand it. He says these people act this way because they don't know the difference between good and evil the way he's trying to. In other words, their behavior comes from their own confusion, their own limitations, their own unresolved stuff, not from some personal vendetta against him specifically. This matters because it stops you from taking their behavior personally in the way that spirals into obsession. A toxic coworker who undermines everyone isn't doing it because there's something uniquely wrong with you. They're doing it because that's the operating system they're running on. You just happen to be standing nearby. And then Marcus says something that I think is the real punchline of the whole passage. He reminds himself that he cannot be harmed by any of them because none of them can implicate him in anything shameful, and that he cannot be angry at someone who shares his own nature, made for cooperation. The way hands or eyelids or rows of teeth are made to work together. That's a radical reframe. He's saying their behavior can't actually touch the part of me that matters, unless I let it make me act in a way I'd be ashamed of. The real damage isn't what they do to me. It's what I do to myself in response if I let their behavior drag me down to their level. This is worth sitting with. A toxic person can be rude to you, but they cannot make you cruel. A toxic person can lie about you, but they cannot make you dishonest. Okay, let's turn all of this into something you can actually use the next time it happens. Here's a 4-step framework drawn directly from what we just covered. Step 1, name what's actually yours. The moment you feel that spike of anger or hurt, pause and ask, what part of this situation is actually within my control right now? Usually it's a short list, your next sentence. Whether you stay in the room, whether you respond immediately or wait, your tone, that's it. Everything else, their intention, their mood, whether they even realize what they did, is not yours, and naming this out loud, even just in your head, interrupts the spiral before it builds momentum. Step 2, expect it, don't resist it. Remember Marcus's morning practice. If you already know this particular person tends to be difficult, stop being surprised by it because surprise is what amplifies frustration. If you walk into the interaction already expecting friction, the friction doesn't destabilize you. It confirms what you already prepared for. And this isn't pessimism, it's armor. Step 3, respond from your values, not their behavior. Before you react, ask yourself one question. What would I do here if I weren't angry? Not what do they deserve, but what reflects who you actually want to be. Sometimes that's a calm boundary. Sometimes it's silence. Sometimes it's walking away entirely. But the decision comes from your own standard, not from mirroring whatever they just threw at you. Step 4, protect the part that matters. At the end of the interaction, ask yourself the only question that actually determines whether you won or lost. In the Stoic sense, did I become something I'm ashamed of, or did I stay someone I respect? If yes, you won, regardless of whether they apologized, regardless of whether they even noticed, because their behavior was the wind, your character was the arrow, and you don't grade yourself on the wind. Run through these 4 steps enough times, and something starts to happen that's hard to describe until you've felt it. The toxic person stops having the same grip on you, not because they changed, but because you stopped handing them the one thing they needed to affect you, your judgment about what their behavior means about you or to you. Let me make this concrete with an example, because philosophy that stays abstract doesn't actually change anything. Say you have a coworker who constantly takes credit for your work in meetings, and it happens again. They present your idea as their own in front of your boss. The old reaction, you feel your stomach drop, you replay it for the rest of the day, you go home and vent about it for an hour, you check if your boss noticed, you lie awake thinking of what you should have said, and by tomorrow you're dreading the next meeting. Notice something. In that whole sequence, the coworker was only involved for about 30 seconds. Everything else was you alone, spending your own time and energy on something that already happened and that you can't undo. Now the Stoic version. In the meeting, you notice it happening. You pause, you ask, what's mine here? Mine is I can calmly clarify that this was actually my idea, right there in the room, factually and without drama. That's it, that's the part that's mine. Whether the coworker feels embarrassed, not mine. Whether my boss fully registers it, not mine. Whether the coworker does it again next week, not mine. You say your piece calmly, factually, and maybe you follow up afterward and set a clear boundary, asking to be looped in properly next time, or documenting your work in writing going forward. So this becomes harder to repeat. That's action, that's you doing your part. Then you let it go, not because it doesn't matter, but because you already did what was yours to do, and everything past that point was never inside your control anyway. You go home, and instead of spending 3 more hours replaying it, you spend 0. Because there's nothing left in that situation that belongs to you. That's the entire shift, not don't care, but do your part fully. Then stop paying rent on a situation you've already settled your side of. I want to be honest about something, because I don't want this video to accidentally convince someone to stay in a genuinely harmful situation because of using Stoic language as an excuse. Everything in this video is about people you have some reason to remain in contact with. A coworker, a family member, someone in your life you can't or don't want to fully remove. The Stoic principle applies beautifully here because it gives you a way to stay functional and unshaken around people you can't avoid. But the dichotomy of control also tells you clearly when to leave. Remember, your actions are yours. Choosing to remove someone from your life is entirely within your control. And sometimes it's exactly the right action to take. If someone is abusive, if a relationship is causing you real ongoing harm, if being around them consistently pulls you into becoming someone you don't respect, walking away isn't a failure of Stoic calm. It's an exercise of it. You're using the one thing that's actually yours, your choice, to remove yourself from something that isn't serving you. Stoicism was never about tolerating anything and everything forever. It's about knowing precisely what's yours to decide, and then deciding it without being ruled by fear, anger, or the need for the other person's approval first. So here's what I want you to take from this video in one sentence. Because if you remember nothing else, remember this. You are never actually in a fight with the toxic person in your life. You're in a fight with your own judgment about what their behavior means. And that fight, unlike the one with them, you can win it every single time, because it was always yours to control. The next time someone in your life is difficult, your coworker, your sibling, your friend, whoever it is, try running through it. What's actually mine here? Expect the friction instead of being shocked by it. Respond from what you value, not from what they just did. And at the end, ask the only question that actually counts. Did I stay someone I respect? Do that consistently, and something quietly powerful happens. The toxic person doesn't get less difficult, but they stop being able to touch the part of you that actually matters. And that was the whole point, the entire time. If this actually shifted something for you, that's genuinely why I make these. Not for the algorithm, but because these ideas are 2,000 years old, and they still work exactly as well today as they did in Rome. Follow for the next one, because we're going deeper into this series and there's a lot more here that's going to help. I'll see you in the next one.